Welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. This is the show where you can ask me anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the show where you can ask all your questions about politics, and no one's going to judge you for not knowing things or having different political opinions. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I do not believe in judging people for how they vote. I do not believe in judging people for their political beliefs. I believe in engaging on the substance. I know there's a lot of very popular shows out there where Republicans and Democrats yell and scream at each other. This is not that show. So if you're looking for people to fight or bully each other or call each other names, this is not that show. This is just a show for good faith engagement on the substance. And hopefully, if we talk about this shit together, we can all have a better shared understanding of what is actually going on in our country and in our governments, etc., etc. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. Good morning, Triska. Good to see you again. So, yeah, I know politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language, and there's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there running around rampant. So, this is the show where you can ask all your questions to clear up things that you maybe hear about on the news that don't make any sense necessarily. Ugh, excuse me. What's up, Eliminate All Floyds? Good to see you again. You can ask me questions here about any potential misinformation or propaganda that you have seen, and we can all clear up together what is actually going on so that we're not out there continuing to spread the misinformation amongst our social media followers or even our friends and family. So throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. What's up, John Abbott? Good to see you again. Any questions at all? No such thing as a dumb question. It can be simple, it can be complicated, it can be a left wing question, it can be a right wing question. I do not judge people based on their political ideologies. Everybody is entitled to be here, everybody is entitled to engage, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I am not going to fight you or harass you or bully you. I just want to engage with you in good faith on the substance. So throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. I know politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. Like if you don't know what the filibuster is or what reconciliation is or what does the FTC do versus the FDA versus the versus the ICC, if you don't know who Patel or Bondi or Noam are, it can be really it can be really hard to be a part of the conversation. Paul Walker says, who'd you like to run for president in 2028? Chris Murphy. First, I think we really need to focus on winning the midterms, Paul Walker, but Chris Murphy, if I could wave a magic wand and have any president right now, it would be Chris Murphy. Connie Sindel says, why do Republicans say Dems hate America? Because we don't agree with this administration. I think part of it is culture war shit, like part of it is, you know, the Republican Party has created this image of them being the more patriotic of the two parties, and so that's kind of like part of that narrative. I think there are some people out there who they see right wing media exclusively and they listen to what Trump says exclusively, and they have been lied to and tricked and conned into thinking that Democrats hate America, or that criticizing America's past is somehow unpatriotic, or hoping for America to be better in the future and working towards it to be better in the future is somehow un-American. There's also, like some religious extremism sewn in there where you can't really be a good American unless you're Christian, unless you're white, unless you're straight, shit like that. And so it's all kind of muddled together. It's like if you don't vote for Republicans, then that means that you're not a good Christian and you're not a good American and you're not a good person, shit like that. The J Man says Democrats definitely don't love America. LOL. That's not true, J Man. Do you want to ask a question? Josh GB says opinion on Greens significantly increases minimum wage. Are you talking about in the UK? Because I am not aware of the Green Party doing that in America. But I generally support raising the minimum wage. Okay, Canalingua says which recent presidential term increased the GDP more? I mean, my guess is Biden, but I don't have that number off the top of my head. Tom says, what do you think about Trump's invasion of Iran? Reckless, stupid, poorly planned, corrupt. It's just, yeah, I cannot say enough negative things about it. You know, you remember the catastrophes that were the war in Iraq and Afghanistan? Those were way better planned than this, and those were smaller countries. Real Benda says, is Senator Mullen better or worse than Kristi Noem? I don't know, man. It's like we're trying to say, you know, yeah, which is a worse pile of shit, like I don't know. I don't know. We're just gonna have to see what kind of decisions that he makes. In a regular world, the Republican Party would not vote, and John Fetterman would not vote to forward the nomination of somebody who threatened to get into a fist fight with a union leader during a committee hearing. So, you know. Alrighty. Astro Guy says, what is libertarian socialist democracy? I have no idea. Monty says, what have you been right about? Say one thing. I mean, I have been talking about how Trump is going to be a disaster as a president, ever since 2015. And I have been largely found to be, that is largely proven to have been a accurate prediction. Literally, I was one of the people that was saying in 2015, 2016, like, what if there's a global pandemic and we have somebody incompetent like Trump in office? And then that's literally exactly what happened. All right, the J Man says, do you think we have too much government involved in the economy or other facets? J Man, I think there's good government involvement and there's bad government involvement. Like, there's regulations that people in Florida kind of wish that there was more government intervention into because there's like condos that fall down because of a lack of regulation. In California, it is very difficult to build new houses and build high speed rail because we have some bad regulations in California, or we're not really sure how to prioritize regulations in California, I should say. So yeah, there's good involvement, there's bad involvement. Like, I think that it's too much government involvement for the government to tell women that they can't get an abortion. But I don't think it's good that the Trump administration is allowing forever chemicals and PFOS and all sorts of toxic pesticides to be used willy nilly. I think those are pretty good government regulations. Alrighty, Guerrilla says, do you support Israel? I support the people. I don't support the government. We should not be sending them more money and weapons. Tom O says, what do you think about the people who protest and grieve the Ayatollah? I don't know. It's difficult. I don't think the Ayatollah was a good person. I don't condone violence, so I don't think that we should be murdering other world leaders or kidnapping them. The same way that I don't think that somebody should have assassinated Charlie Kirk, and I don't think that the Trump administration should have killed Alex Preddy and Renee Goods and all the other detainees that are currently being tortured or sexually assaulted or murdered. I don't think that should be happening either. If somebody is strongly religious or a citizen of Iran and they feel emotionally invested in the Ayatollah's death, like, I don't feel like I have the right to tell them that they're not allowed to do that. The same way that if the Pope dies and somebody wants to get really upset about that, I'm not necessarily going to also be upset about that. This Pope and the last Pope, I'll feel sad about, but like the previous popes, like, I didn't really care if they lived or died. But yeah, if you're like an American protester who is not at all Islamic and you are mourning the death of the Ayatollah because you think like he was a good guy, or you think that he was doing good for the people of Iran, like, I think that's very misguided, obviously. Okay, Shark says, "Is it strange or normal how little Tulsi Gabbard has been involved in Iran?" Yeah, it seems very clear that a lot of people within the Trump administration are a lot more concerned with stealing elections, investigating Trump's perceived enemies, covering up the Epstein files and shit like that, as opposed to actually doing their job. And so, absolutely, Tulsi Gabbard should be at the forefront of intelligence coming out of Iran and informing the White House and the Department of Defense from with that information. The fact that she said in her most recent hearing that it is not the job of the intelligence agency to discern what are credible threats, like that is the most psychotic. Like, what are you doing? Why were you in Georgia stealing ballots? And why are you not actually involved in intelligence risk assessment? You know, it's fucking psychotic. A4 Millie says, "What's your opinion on the very controversial death of Charlie Kirk?" I don't find it controversial at all. A4 Millie. I think it's very easy to say that violence of any kind is unconscionable. It is very easy to condemn all violence, regardless of if it is political or the death penalty or whatever, while at the same time acknowledging that Charlie Kirk was a really bad guy. He was a liar and he was a con artist and he was toxic to our culture and to our politics. All right. Jonathan Wick says, "Cry me a river, Democrats." That's not a question. Would you like to say, would you like to ask a question, Jonathan? Flamingo Mo says, "Have you watched the Manosphere documentary on Netflix?" I did watch it and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. Like the level of just like grifting and conning and lying and like gaslighting. It's so fucking I can't believe it. I cannot believe that we have an economy that rewards people for doing that shit. And I also don't understand how anybody falls for this. You know, if you watch the documentary, it's clear that all these manosphere guys, like their audience is mainly like 13-year-old boys, which obviously that's an issue for other reasons, but I mean it makes sense that they're the ones that would be literally the most gullible demographic would fall for this shit. But yeah, it's just so obviously my girlfriend lives in Canada, you know, and oh no, I have had sex with a girl, but she just went to another school, you know. Yeah, man, I can't fucking believe it. All right, John Abbott says Senate Judiciary leaders referred criminal perjury charges for Nome a few days ago. Do you think anything will come of it? Generally speaking, no. You know, it is always possible that people put enough pressure on Republicans for them to actually do their fucking jobs. But until Democrats win the midterms, I don't think we'll see anything more than a firing at best. Alrighty, John Abbott says replacing Gnome with Mullins is like shitting your pants and fixing it by changing your shirt. Let's see here. John Abbott says, unless I misheard, Gabbard didn't say it's not the intel community's job, but that it's not her job. And I would 100% believe she has been told that because nobody would trust her since she works for Putin. You know, John Abbott, I do think you need to double check that because I'm pretty sure the quote was, "It is not the job of the intelligence community, the intel community." You know. Alrighty, let's get back into these TikTok comments. Tom O says, "How was Charlie Turk toxic just because he had views different than yours? Generally curious." That's a totally acceptable question, Tom O. But no, Charlie Kirk was not toxic because he had views that were different than mine. Charlie Kirk was toxic because he was specifically going to college campuses and lying to college students in order to turn them into Republicans, conservatives, Republican voters, what have you. He was a propagandist. He was in the business of misinformation. He would lie in order to quote unquote win debates. And then he created this kind of like media machine where he could simultaneously enrich himself while also adding to the ranks of people who vote blindly for Republican politicians. So that is one part of it. You know, I think an argument could also be made that he's a part of like debate bro culture where it's like, you know, the most important thing is that we challenge every idea in the free market of ideas, like should women be able to vote, should minorities be able to live, like all of these are they're just questions, you know, they're just questions. All right, let's see here. Somebody with no screen save says, "Let us remember Charlie Kirk's." I'm not reading that. That's a little in poor taste. Tom O says, "When did he lie?" I am happy to bring this up because I have been asked this question before, Tomo. Let's see here. Charlie Kirk, PolitiFact. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Of the, let's see here, 12, 13, 16, 17 statements that PolitiFact has rated from Charlie Kirk. One of them was mostly true. One of them was half true. And the remaining 15 were all mostly false, false, or pants on fire. So Charlie Kirk said the 14th Amendment has never been challenged at SCOTUS. That is a lie. During COVID, Tim Walz rations access to antibodies based on skin color. That was a lie. Jamie Foxx left paralyzed and blind from a brain clot in his brain after a COVID-19 vaccine. That was a lie. Maricopa County intentionally, where was that? When I was just reading, Maricopa County intentionally reduced the polling places. That was a lie. For climate change environmentalists, not a single one of their predictions has ever come true. That is a lie. Do you need me to go on, Tom? Let me know. The Divine Dude says, "Are you taking guests or is it comment replies only?" 99% of my show is replying to comments. Occasionally, I will bring people up, but I am mercurial about it. So, you can put in your request and we'll see how I feel. All right. Kanye says, "Is Netanyahu alive?" I have no idea. He probably is alive. All right. Someone with no screen name says, "Not anti fascism as a concept, but Antifa as it exists in practice. What is your opinion on it?" So, Antifa, again, is not a group. And I think it's really important that we continue to clarify that for people. Um, so there really is no organization to to criticize or comment on. It is just people that protest the Trump administration are anti-fascists, ergo Antifa, and some people who wear the costume of protesting against the Trump administration do things like burn down Waymos, but we have no idea what those people's political affiliation is. Tom O says, "So you don't think he brought Kolakich together to have a reasonable discussions?" Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you look at his social media, like the stuff that he put out there, like that he intentionally put out there, the the sort of like visceral sort of like narrative of everything is right wing people are smart, left wing people are dumb. I am going to own all of these blue haired, fat, ugly lesbians, and smart, white, straight men like myself are better than them. And that is kind of like the unconscious narrative of all of his, like videos and stuff like that. There's nothing unifying about that. I think that it is illuminating that as people like Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump have risen in prominence, that divisiveness in this country has only skyrocketed. What's up, JP? Good to see you again. Fiction says, "What do you think of the Pentagon asking for $200 billion for the war?" I think I think it's a fucking travesty. I think it's barbaric that the same administration that cut cancer research for children is now asking for $200 billion for the war. I think it is barbaric and unconscionable that the same administration that is making everybody's healthcare costs go up because they refuse to pay the Obamacare subsidies is now asking for $200 billion for the war. That the political party, the Republican Party, that says that we cannot afford free public college or universal healthcare or socialized housing or increasing the pay for teachers. Like those are and that we need to cut people off. We got to cut everybody off of welfare. If there's one person on welfare or food stamps who does not deserve it, then we need to spend as much money as we can to find those people and kick them off of welfare. But here's $200 billion so that we can murder some more brown people in Iran. It's so fucking stupid. So fucking stupid. Yeah, let's cut USAID so that a bunch of kids in impoverished areas are all gonna fucking die of preventable causes, but we need $200 billion so that we can bomb more brown people. Alrighty. Iran says Trump said the US doesn't need NATO. What is your opinion on this? Um, I think you can make an argument that America does need NATO. I think America is worse without NATO, but I think you could also make an argument that America does not need NATO. It's just that we'll be worse without it. It's like you don't need to exercise, but you'll be worse if you don't exercise, that kind of thing. Dan in 3D says my new insult for childish behavior is that's so Trump of you. That's very funny. I actually was doing a similar thing with my wife whenever she would lie to win arguments. And then she got really, really mad at me, so I can't do that anymore. All right, Waco Mind. Is it Waco Mind or Wacko Mind? Is it wacko like crazy or wacko like the Animaniacs? Wacko Mind says, at what point does the anti-war movement stop paying the money used to feed the war machine? I have no idea. That is an excellent question. I mean, where all of this stuff is concerned, it really just depends on us doing the work, of stopping them. Lauren, great to see you again. I forget if I said hi. Iran, you are welcome. Tom O says, well, to say he just posted fat, ugly, blue-haired people is just wrong. Let's be for real here. Tomo, there have been a couple of things that you have said in your questions that make me feel like you are not here in good faith. You have the umbrella of somebody who is being very polite and just trying to engage, but you have regularly strawmanned me in your questions. Like, I did not say that he just posted fat, ugly, blue-haired people. I was saying that the vibe of everything that he posted, and then I said a whole bunch of things to include in the sort of like Pinterest board of what his vibe was. So if we can not put words in my mouth, I would really appreciate that. All right, Buffo Matt says, I know it's a broad term, but I am curious on what your opinion is about Marxism. I believe in giving more power and resources to the working class. I believe that the 1% has been fucking us all over by stealing 90% of the profits from our productivity, and I think that needs to be reversed yesterday. I believe it is a Marxist principle to say that workers should own the means of production, and I 100% support that. There are other people who believe that Marxism has a lot more to do with a dictatorial relationship between the government and the citizens, and that is not where I stand. I just believe in giving workers more money and power and benefits. Triska and Muzz King, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Book Hooker. I really like that name. I don't know why. Book Hooker. It sounds a little bit like a rogue cop, but it also sounds like somebody who has sex in exchange for books. All right. Book Hooker says Hegseth has actually said that about blue-haired folks. Yeah, and JD Vance railed against, childless cat ladies. Like, it's all part of the same, right-wing culture war bullshit. It's completely antithetical to, a message of cohesion and unity. Sea of Emeralds, Musking and Triska, thank you so much. I'm going to reach my second gift goal of the day. Ooh. Wako means it means guest in Ojibwe. Is that really a language? There's so many languages. That is bananas. Okay, let's see here. That was my third heart gold. No, I think that was my second flowers. All right, let's get back into some of these TikTok comments. Highway says, "What do you think of Donald Trump?" And I'm assuming that's like a comma and then Jarrett me, or are you saying what do I think about Donald Trump and Jared Kushner? The answer is Donald Trump is a massive piece of shit, and so is Jared Kushner, and they are currently engaged in corruption on a scale that is unprecedented potentially in world history. No worries, Highway, you're good. Vin says Antifa is not an organization. That is 100% accurate. N5RTN, good to see you again, says to be an enemy of the US is bad, but to be America's ally is fatal. Ooh, that is yeah, no falsehoods detected. Vanessa and D Scott and Triska, thank you so much. I've reached my third rose goal of the day, and now it's finger hearts o'clock, best time of the day. Mick says Why Israel can pretty much do what they please and no one tries to stop them. There's a bunch of different motivating factors for politicians to continue to support Israel, and it goes from good faith, necessity, like wanting to have a good relationship with Israel so that we can have easier access to that region for military operations. But then there's also people who potentially are being, blackmailed by the Mossad, or there's also religious extremists within the Trump administration who believe in empowering Israel to bring about the rapture. That's a real thing that everybody should be really upset about. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. James says, "What point should liberals give up for unity? Immigration, not punishing crime, etc." Actually, I want to reject the premise of your question, James, because the points that liberals, the position of liberals, is unity, and so when we argue for, a humane immigration policy, we are doing that because we are saying these people enjoy these benefits, and so should these people. You also said in your question that that liberals believe in not punishing crime. That is inaccurate. Basically, what people on the left believe is that we have an overly punitive criminal justice system that spends way too much money on policing and prisons, when instead, if we just use that money to eliminate poverty, we would see crime go down in greater rates, and we would not have to, have more people in prison than any country in the world, including authoritarian regimes like China. So let me know what you think about that. Skippy says, "Do you think Epstein was a Mossad honeypot operation?" I think it's possible that Epstein was Mossad. I think it's also possible that he was just like a self-interested human being that was working with lots of intelligence agencies in order to blackmail, what do you call it? In order to blackmail powerful people so that he could just enrich himself and have more power and sex with children. Pootie Sum over on Substack says, "Pretty much Kirk and Talking Points USA lie constantly." That is accurate, my guy or girl. I don't know who you are. Okay. Do you think foreign policy is purely driven by economic interests, or is there an ideological component being used to justify calling upon investors to capitulate and condone a total war? Oh, interesting question. It was purely driven by economic interests. I do not think that foreign policy is purely driven by economic interests. I think that there are some, like religious and moral and selfish reasons there as well. Okay, Credi Dusimani says, "What are your thoughts on Netanyahu threatening Turkey and the U.S. Attacking Iran?" The U.S. attacking Iran is one of the most irresponsible, escalatory, stupid, self-own, like over waste of money, waste of human life things that Trump could have done. It is classic Trump. He just did the stupidest thing in the stupidest fucking way. And what do I think about Netanyahu threatening Turkey? I think he's probably trying to put a wedge between America and NATO, where if Netanyahu is successful in attacking Turkey, we would technically have to then go protect Turkey because we have an Article 5 commitment towards Turkey. So Netanyahu believes that he has more sway over Trump than NATO does, and he wants to test that proposition. That's my theory on that. CS says, "Do you agree with abolishing the military?" Not at the moment. That might be a nice 100 or 200-year project, so long as we can successfully draw down, collectively every nation in the world, getting rid of their nukes, slowly getting rid of their war machines. James Rush says, "Do you think Republicans are thinking of Americans' best interests?" I do not think that Republican politicians are thinking of Americans' best interests. I think that there are probably some elected Republicans who have bought their own propaganda. Like if they are only watching right-wing news, then it's possible that they believe they're doing an amazing job. But I think the vast majority of them know exactly what they are doing. The vast majority of them know that they are hurting people by cutting taxes for the rich, and they just don't care. All right, Tomo says, "Do you think Trump has done anything good for America or the world?" This is coming from a Brit. Tomo, here's my response to that. If somebody stabs you in the throat, is it fair to demand that you say something nice about that person? Smasher Maid says, can you acknowledge that America would infinitely be the most responsible to make that change? And it's not even close. Do you mean like disarming? Do you mean like disarming nukes and getting rid of our military? Smash Mermaid? It's not Smash Mermaid, it's Smash Mermaid. I can't even fucking read. Is that what your question is, Smash Mermaid? Because I do think it's an interesting question. I just want to make sure I'm answering the right one. Buffo Meth says, have you read any politically motivated literature? When you say literature, do you mean fiction or nonfiction? Because I have very much read lots of political nonfiction, and I have a whole thread on my Discord with recommendations for different things that people should be reading. Spike 1487 says, will we have World War III soon? I doubt it. It's possible, but I doubt it. Smash Mermaid says, on nuclear weapons in relation to the flow of power and what America are to the world. Yes, Smash Mermaid, I 100% agree. The issue is that because America has done so many terrible things over our lifetime as a country, we have made a lot of enemies. We have made a lot of enemies who don't think twice about harming American citizens in order to get back at what the American government did even like in 50 years ago. You know what I mean? So part of drawing down militarily and nuclearly is making sure that we are doing so in a way that does not threaten the safety of American citizens. So long as we are able to do that, so long as we are not unilaterally disarming, I think that would be a very positive move, obviously. And America 100% has the responsibility to do that. I think that part of that is repairing those relationships between other countries and other citizenry, you know? Tomo says, sorry, I didn't really get that analogy. It was a genuine question. There's bias on both sides about him, question mark. So yeah, my analogy is Trump has done so many terrible things that I feel like it's unfair that I need to prove my objectivity by pointing out the tiny little bits of silver lining in the mountain of dog shit. So, like, let's say that you get stabbed in the throat, and you have to, there's like years and years of you being in the hospital to try to recover from those wounds. And then there's a trial for the guy who stabbed you in the throat. And after your testimony, the defense attorney comes up and goes, would you say that my client has nice eyes? Like, doesn't that feel like, why do I need to admit that? Why do I need to admit that the client has nice eyes in order for my testimony about how shitty they are? Like, what difference does it make that I think getting rid of the penny was a good idea when there are millions of people that are dead because of this guy who did not need to be? That we are wasting so much money, stealing so much money from people. So many people are being hurt by this guy. You know, yeah, and some of the things that he did that I agree with, he only did because like Kim Kardashian told him to, and I'm just like, he's so fucking stupid. Lucas says, are you left or right? I am left. JP says, Trump got rid of the penny, also started Iran war. Yeah, I think that the Iran war the bad of that kind of outweighs the good of getting rid of the penny. All right. Horgan says, America learned nothing from Afghanistan. That is accurate. Ecology Today says, as an outsider Canadian, we so appreciate that you are utilizing your intellect and humor to draw attention to these political issues. Thank you, Ecology Today. I appreciate that. John Abbott says, you wouldn't ask people to say what they liked about Hitler's policies. Yeah, exactly. Skippy says, why didn't Biden do anything about fentanyl? He did. He did, Skippy. Would you like me to send you some information on that? Shoot me a DM. I'm happy to. Oscar says, do you condemn political violence? If yes, to what level? I condemn all political violence. I do not even believe that you should do property destruction. That's how against political violence and violence in general that I am. There's some people who I find very interesting, like political scientist Erica Chenoweth, who my followers have told me that she says that you can use property destruction to be part of a nonviolent movement. I'm interested in hearing that argument. I don't personally buy it at the moment. Droid Man says, "So did you cheer or smile when Kirk got shot?" Droid Man, not only did I not cheer or smile, but you can watch my reaction in real time because I was streaming when it happened, and all of the people in my chat were saying Charlie Kirk just got shot, Charlie Kirk just died. You can go watch it right now, Droid Man. Go for it. We'll wait. Tom O says, "I see your point, but is there lots of people that have benefited from his decisions, both US and globally? Rich people, some white people, some men. That's basically it. Like there's a small group of people, him and his buddies, that are greatly benefiting from his policies. And everybody else is getting fucked in one way or the other." Right, Skippy says, "Do you think we should give out more visas and green cards?" I don't know. I think that we should have a humane and non-barbaric immigration system. I think we should hire more asylum judges and immigration judges so that people aren't waiting 2 decades to find out if they can, you know, come here legally. Yeah, if you would like more information on how difficult it is to come here the right way, quote unquote, Skippy, I'm happy to give you that information. Hambone Mike says, "The world is a much better place because of Trump." That is not accurate. Hambone, would you like to ask a question? Italiana says, "How's the governor race, California looking for us?" I have no idea what the current polling is, Italiana. I am putting all of my support behind Katie Porter. I think she's great. Lucas says, "Are you one of them that hate right super much and think that their human rights are gone, like Kirk?" Um, Lucas, that's not a really well put together sentence, so I'm not really sure what you're asking. But I'll tell you this: I don't hate or even dislike any voters, but Republican politicians and talking heads on the right, like Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro or Megyn Kelly or Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson or whatever, they're bad people. They're bad people, and they are damaging society and the world. And I'm happy to go into more detail on that, Lucas, if you like. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the TikTok comments. Tom O says, "So no Iranians or Venezuelans. I only ask because on the BBC we see these people happy." Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there are some Iranians who are really happy that Maduro got kidnapped. I'm sure that there's some. Sorry, I'm sure there's some Venezuelans who are happy that Maduro got kidnapped by America. I'm sure that there are some Iranians that were happy that the Ayatollah got murdered. But yeah, I mean, you know, are children happy when you let them eat an entire cake? Sure, but it's going to be a problem in the long run. Yeah, I'm confident that people that are happy because of individual things that Trump has done are then going to be unhappy because of that or other things that Trump has done. Happy to go into more detail on that if you like, Tom. Oscar says, "Would you classify people who beat up and severely hurt or even kill Nazis as criminals?" Yeah, I mean, again, I don't advocate for any kind of political violence. All right, scrolling down the bottom, Ace says, "Now Iran has a more radical leader." Yeah, so all those people that were quote unquote celebrating the Ayatollah getting murdered, now they have a worse leader, you know? All right, Pink Squirrel says, "Are the girls in the school happy?" Yeah, there was a school in Iran, Tom O, that American missiles accidentally exploded. We killed over 100 people, mostly school aged girls. And those people are not happy, you know? All right. Lucas says, don't care about right people dying. I am not English, so I am not the best at spelling, and I have dyslexia." Yeah, Lucas, I only pointed out because there are a bunch of bots from other countries, and so I feel it's necessary to point it out just to let people know, like, I'm flagging that some of these people might not actually be real real commenters and might just be paid bot farms, stuff like that. And just let people know that it's difficult for me to answer questions if I can't really understand what the question is. No tea, no shade. I'm not saying that you're a bad person for English not being your first language or having dyslexia. Jamie says, "It would be no different than someone taking down the Trump regime. People would celebrate." I find no, I don't think that that is an accurate analogy. Jamie, let me know if you would like me to clarify. Horgan says, "Do you think the Democratic Party is bending too much towards the right to gain votes?" You know, it's an interesting question, Jorgen, because I think that there are people within the Democratic Party establishment, and particularly leadership in the Democratic Party, that do kind of like, um, yeah, I guess the right word is bend towards the right to gain votes, 100%. Now, I can think of a lot of reasons for them doing that that I think are good faith reasons. Like, I don't think that Kamala Harris had similar policies to Liz Cheney. I just thought that I think that she just thought that it was politically powerful message to say that this Republican who is diametrically opposed to everything that I believe in is advocating for me and going to vote for me because of how dangerous and terrible Donald Trump is. Now, I also think that there are a bunch of people out there who are taking advantage of some of those messaging strategies to say that the Democratic Party is too far to the right or is constantly capitulating to the right or to the Republican Party or that they're just like the Republican Party. And that is wildly inaccurate. Like the majority of elected Democrats are not like that. And if you are looking for the politicians who don't do that, they are in the Democratic Party. And so, yeah, it's like it's a fair hit, but it's also a hit that's like I think misused and overblown. Sort of like if you drive your girlfriend's car and you like, get into a little fender bender and you have to like fix one of her taillights or something like that. And then, she constantly brings that up over and over again. It's like, yeah, I did do that, but you know, I don't think that you are using it in good faith. You know what I mean? That's not about you, Jorgen. That's about the culture in general. Right. Let's see here. Bloody Hippo says, "What's your opinion of Trump saying Gavin Newsom can't be president because he has dyslexia?" I mean, Trump is stupid. He's a big stupid person who, if he's read any book in his entire life, it's probably Mein Kampf or that collection of Hitler speeches that was reportedly on his bed. What do you call it? What do you call the thing that's right next to your bed? Your bed dresser drawer or whatever. So yeah, it's just Trump being Trump. Fucking yeah. Everything that everybody else does is bad, but the things that he does, like, yeah, you know. So apparently, I just got reported for harassment and bullying. Thank you, everybody, for saying nightstand. If the person who just reported me for harassment and bullying would let me know what I said that was harassing and bullying, I would love to know so that I can not do that in the future. Because as far as I understand, I did no harassing and bullying. I am completely flabbergasted as to who I could potentially have been bullying. So if you could just again let me know, I'm here desperately trying to be better. CS says, "Did you talk about MAGA moms or something?" No, I haven't. I haven't accurately said. I have not accurately told people the truth that I am fucking their moms on a live stream in a very long time. I haven't even tried to be coy about it. I just haven't been doing that bit for a long time. And yet I still am getting reported for harassment and bullying. So again, Turtle in a Half Shell said, "You said Trump is stupid." I mean, he is stupid, Turtle in a Half Shell. Do you think is it bullying or harassing if I call somebody who's not in this chat stupid? Turtle in a Half Shell? Are you the one who reported me, Turtle in a Half Shell? Because that doesn't seem like a fair hit to me. Am I not allowed to accurately describe Trump being a stupid person? I'm happy to give you evidence that he's stupid. There's a ton of it. Bruh says, "Is it more productive to research what a politician claims or just believe everything that they say?" I mean, it's more productive, but it is more time consuming, obviously. There should be some combination of finding trusted voices and doing your own research. All right, Daniel Griffith says liberal or conservative. I'm a left leaning person, so I'm a progressive Democrat. Jorgen says you said bad words about their glorious orange leader. How dare you? JP says you looking for the word library or buffet table. That's really funny. Right. Let's see here. Tom O says whoever reported is odd as it's just free speech. You know, Tom O, I think that the more that you pay attention to American politics, you will recognize that the right in this country doesn't really give a shit about free speech. They care about free speech for them and no speech for anybody else. Turtle in a half shell says, I meant the app spent it like. I don't know what that means. SS Lear says, I think you're on target, host. Honestly, I think so too. SS Lear, thank you for being here. Bloody Hippo says, opinion of Gavin Newsom for 2028. So I am sort of like, if there's like a scale of 1 to 10 where like 1 is you hate Gavin Newsom and think he's the devil, and 10 is you think Gavin Newsom is amazing and he's going to save us all, I'm probably like a 4. Like I'm mid on Gavin Newsom, like leaning towards disliking him. But he's done a bunch of things that I think are great and a bunch of things that I think are good. I am not going to be voting for Gavin Newsom in the primary. Mostly, I can guarantee you that there is going to be somebody else that I like better than Gavin Newsom in the primary. No one's announced yet, so I can't tell you that for certain. He could be the only nominee, If he ends up being the nominee in the general election, then I am going to happily and enthusiastically both vote for him and encourage other people to vote for him as well. Because I guarantee you that Gavin Newsom will be a better president than whatever fucking ding dong the Republican Party puts up. Bloody Hippo says, I've met him personally, so I probably have a bias for him. Like you're biased in favor of him, Bloody Hippos. Tagarit says, I'm sending Katie Porter $100 for a campaign because I think you're absolutely right there. Oh, thank you, Tagarit. I would love it if you would just do the work of telling people to vote for Katie Porter in the primary, Labo says, do you have a college degree? Yes, I do. Hambone Mike says, Rubio over Newsom every day? No, Hambone Mike, no. Would you like to ask a question? Sorry for Tomorrow says, he will have my vote if he's who runs. All right, that's fair. Yeah, that's not me. Turtle and Half Shell says, I hate Trump. I mean, TikTok didn't like you saying Trump was stupid. Yeah, that's possible. I don't know. All right, Protect the Pumpkin says, Katie Porter, you guys have no one. I mean, Katie Porter's great. I don't see, it doesn't make any sense to me that you would say otherwise. All right, Judy says, Mark Kelly, 2028. Yeah, I like Mark Kelly. He's a little more centrist than me, but I'd probably vote for Mark Kelly over Gavin in the primary. Stephanie Nicole says, do you believe disability rights are human rights? Yes, I do. Hambone Mike says, why not Rubio? Rubio has zero fucking principles. Rubio will fucking shove his own mother under the bus in order to achieve more political power and wealth. He is a man with zero conviction. He is a man with zero riz. His policies are psychotic. He is a terrible Secretary of State. He is currently covering for the Trump administration and all of their various crimes and crimes against humanity. So yeah, no, absolutely not. Little Marco, I'll take fucking Gavin Newsom every fucking day of the week and twice on Sunday over Little Marco. Boy, oh boy, did Trump fucking nail it with that fucking nickname. He's just he's just such a small and pathetic man, and coming from Trump, like that really means something. He is one of the smallest and most pathetic men out there, and to accurately describe Marco as being smaller and more pathetic, like that's a hit. Like that is a solid fucking hit. Bloody Hippo says, do you think the Democrats will win the midterms? I think if they're fair, then Democrats will fucking crush in the midterms. But we unfortunately going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that those elections are fair, unfortunately. Okay, let's see here. Kate the Grateful says, didn't Rubio steal from Americans with that Medicaid thing? I am unaware of that. I know that Senator, what the fuck is that dude's name? He used to be Governor Rick Scott or something. He looks like a fucking alligator man. You know what I'm talking about? I think that he did that. I don't know if Rubio was involved in that at all. Yeah, Senator Scott and Jamie. Yeah, that was in Florida 100%. And Marco Rubio was a senator from Florida. But I don't know. I don't know if Rubio was involved in that. Um, in that. Isn't it weird that the Republican Party hasn't disowned Rick Scott? Rick Scott, who's guilty of Medicare fraud. Rick Scott, who is openly advocating for people in government to be able to do insider trading. Like even the watered down no insider trading bill that Josh Hawley put forward with the Democrats, Rick Scott is saying no. This dude is still a senator. This dude is still a senator in the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is fine with that. Meanwhile, Senator Menendez got fucking booted by the Democratic Party. Seems kind of interesting to me. Bloody Hippo says, I'm independent, but I will vote all Democrats for the midterms. I am also left leaning. Is there a reason why you don't call yourself a Democrat, Bloody Hippos? Bruh says, prices will likely go up due to the higher prices of oil. That is accurate. Lucas says, many people in Sweden, where I am, think that when right is in charge, they have 410 free speech. I don't know what 410 free speech means. Stephanie Nicole says, I'm a new mom. My daughter is almost 4 months old, but the administration we're under scares me. It scares me too, Stephanie Nicole. My wife and I are expecting in less than 2 months. And, part of the reason why I do this work is because I want there to be a good world for her to inherit. Coco says he was a senator when the money was stolen. Yeah, I don't know how much I would blame Rubio for that. Like if you're just in power when that theft happens, I don't know how much we can blame him for that. But like Rick Scott was like intimately involved in that fraud, like he was responsible for it. Right. Thank you, Stephanie Nicole. Yeah, I am discovering emotions I did not know existed. I am feeling affection for my wife's belly in a way that I did not predict. We are very excited to meet our daughter. Coco says Rick Scott wasn't a senator. I meant to say, yeah, Rick Scott was also governor of Florida. Yes, he was the governor of Florida. I think that's when the fraud happened, right? Kate the Grateful says Rubio apparently has a long track record of corruption. Oh yeah, I don't know anything about that. I've only my knowledge of Rubio has only been he is a feckless, uh, you know, opportunist who is pathetic as opposed and has terrible policies as opposed to like actually stealing money from people. But yeah, you know, I am interested in learning more about that. Skippy says Newsom takes money from California. I have not seen any evidence that is accurate, Skippy. I find it hard to believe. Um, let's see here. Bruh says, will prices of everything go up due to the higher prices of oil? Yes, 100%. Tomo says, do you think liberals or leftists debating college kids are correct in doing so? I don't. Let me get to that in a second, Tomo. Hold on a second. User a bunch of numbers says Katie Porter and Mark Kelly. Are you serious, dude? If you like Newsom and despise Rubio, why/values? I don't know what that means. Yeah, user a bunch of numbers. I'm happy to go into more detail about why I think Newsom is better than Rubio, and why Katie Porter and Mark Kelly are great. But yeah, your incredulousness is I'm not agreeing with it whatsoever. Like if I tell you that I think Quantum of Solace is the best Bond movie, and you go really Quantum of Solace, like I get that. Like I get that everybody doesn't agree with me, but Katie Porter and Mark Kelly are beloved. And Rubio is universally derided. So yeah, like I don't. I see what you're trying to do, and I don't think it's working. So yeah, Tom, going back to your question about liberals or leftists debating college kids, I don't think that debates are good. Like I think that they are not productive. I think they create this attitude of us versus them. I think that the incentive structures of debates are faulty, where it is more important to win, even if it means ad hominem attacks and denigrating the person sitting across from you, or in the case of Charlie Kirk, just making shit up whole cloth. So yeah, I'm not for anybody doing debates. I trust people on the left to do debates in good faith way more than I trust Republican talking heads to do debates in good faith. I'm sure you could find me a clip of Hassan Piker or Destiny or Dean or whoever doing something that we could describe as like shitty debate bro behavior. I think that they are widely saying things that are more accurate and also uh, entering into those discussions in way more good faith than the Republicans are. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. D, so sorry about your hairline disappearing because of because of your three beautiful daughters. I have an uncle who has two daughters, and one time we were all at dinner together, me and him and his wife and his two girls, and he told a really racy joke, and then his girls just started like roasting him to death, and he was just like happier than a pig in shit, just like rage baiting his women, and that really like tickled me. And I told my wife, I was like, I would either like to have like one boy and one girl or 1,000 girls. Just I want to I want to be the guy that all of my daughters and my wife team up against. That just sounds so much fun to me. Anyways, Bloody Hippo says, if Gavin Newsom is the nominee, who do you think will be the VP? Oh, I have no idea, Bloody Hippos. Sophia, great to see you again. Says, when Democrats say they want wealth distribution, what income bracket do they want to raise taxes for? Excellent question, Sophia. So, I am not going to die on the hill of this is the amount of money that should be taxed this amount, and this is the amount of money that should be taxed this amount. What I believe in is let's start with taxing the richest people more and then see how that goes. And then maybe we can tax the rich a little bit more, and maybe we can dip down a little bit more and tax those people a little bit more. And then we'll see what's like an equitable system. But because right now, nobody can afford housing, no one can afford college for their children, no one can afford healthcare. People are largely going to not be able to afford things like food and utilities soon because of the war in Iran. And as this is happening, there are people in this country who are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. It is an unfathomable amount of money. So if there's somebody out there who makes $5 million a year and they are worried that me and people on the left are going to make it so they only make $4 million a year, I don't think you need to worry. The only people that I want to tax more are people that have like more than $1 million and giant profitable corporations, stuff like that. I want to tax people who, after I tax them, they will still be impossibly wealthy. And then we can go from there and see what happens, Sorry for Tomorrow says, might be extreme to some, but in my opinion, 100% tax on anything over 999 million. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it should be illegal to be a billionaire. I think $1 billion is too much money for any single human being to have. Let's see here. This person says, was Hitler right? The answer is no. Oliver Howell says, you're American, right? Question mark? No, I am American left. Sophia says, but shouldn't we focus on making it easier for people to earn more rather than taking from high earners? So there are a couple of reasons why I think that's a little bit of a misguided view, Sophia, because number one, just somebody having that much money makes it harder for people to earn more money. People that have that much money have the power to stop other people from being able to earn more money. Having that much money means you are able to hack politics in a way where other people are not allowed to, not easier for them to earn more money. So yeah, let me know if that makes sense. Like, it would be a lot harder for us to do anything to make it easier for people to earn more money if there are people who are hoarding hundreds of billions of dollars. Just the fact of holding that money has a stagnation effect on the economy, which makes it harder for people to earn more money. All right, let's see here. Iceman says national conglomerates and publicly traded companies should be outlawed. Local owned only. Ooh, that's an interesting idea, Iceman. It's a little extreme, Iceman, but I'm open to an argument for why that would be a good policy. Yeah, that really feels like a step 50 in a plan to redistribute the wealth in this country and stop monopolies from happening. But I'm not instantly against it, Iceman. Oliver Howell says, if you were from the UK, who would you vote for if you could? A left-wing party, so Greens or Labor, you know. Gabriel says, do Palestinians have the right to own a country? Yes. Slafs Celebrini says, do you support Trump or Kamala? I supported Kamala. JC says, the richest are multi-billionaires and there's only 2,000 people. We need to see an infographic. I am so sorry to have burped on the live stream like this, everybody. Righty. And also, JC, you are correct. Alrighty, scrolling down. Droid Man says, I believe until lobbying is banned, nothing will change no matter who is in office. I am for that, Droid Man, but I also believe that there are a bunch of things that we can do to make positive change, even if lobbying continues to exist. Gabriel says, Palestine or Israel? I am for the citizens of both of those countries. I am against the governments of both of those countries. Chad Bitson says, I'm 5 days behind on news. Anything worth mentioning? I did hear he's still breathing. Yeah, you know, he hasn't passed away yet. I think the most insane news that happened recently was director of national intelligence or national security, Tulsi Gabbard, saying that it is not her job to assess threats and it is not the job of the intelligence community to assess threats when that is literally their entire job. And also, the director of counterterrorism retired. He said it was because the war was unnecessary and that we were forced into it by Israel, which kind of tracks because he's famously anti-Semitic in like not a just against Netanyahu or AIPAC kind of way, but in like a Jewish people are bad kind of way. But I also personally believe that he is not being given the resources to stop an influx of terrorist threats that are occurring because of our war in Iran, and he does not want to be blamed for it, and that is the reason why he resigned. Right. Stephanie Nicole says, do you think if Kamala had more time, she would have won? Yes, 100%. Sophia says, would you agree with making it so top earners can't make it hard for others to earn money without taking their money? You know, in a world where that's possible, Sophia, yes. But again, I don't think it's possible. You know, there is a little bit of fungibleness with how many dollars are in existence. But if you don't want there to be massive and uncontrollable inflation, you have to kind of treat every dollar as if it is one of a set few numbers of dollars that exist. And so, if the same way that there's like a set number of water drops that exist on planet Earth, and every time we take water out into space, we are losing water. Like that is water that is never going to sort of like regrow here in America. And so if somebody is hoarding billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, those are dollars that cannot be in circulation. And in order for us to have a healthy economy, we need dollars to be circulating and moving around. Droid Man says, you're from California, right? Are you happy with Gavin? If you look at numbers, he has killed California. He has not killed California. It is still a very popular place to live. It's the reason why real estate is so expensive here, is because of how many people want to live here. And people who are moving out of California are not doing so because they don't like it, but are doing so because it is too expensive for them, because too many people want to move here, and also because the Trump administration and Republicans have made the cost of living crisis exponentially worse. Droidman19 says Joe is under investigation for leaking classified info. So, Droidman, my understanding of that is that this is a false accusation by the Trump administration because they're trying to smear his name to make it seem as though he did not have any legitimate criticisms of the Trump administration entering into this stupid war in Iran that is expensive in money and lives, and also worse, not even as well planned as Iraq and Afghanistan, which were fucking catastrophes. Righty. Carmine says, hello, I'm from California and I'm dead, but this is totally anecdotal. That's funny. Sarah Tomorrow says, can I just move into any house I want by claiming it was promised to me 3,000 years ago? No, Sorry for Tomorrow, and I think I understand your subtext there, and I generally agree. Droidman19 says the cost of living and housing didn't start with Trump. I bought a house 3 years ago. So you buying a house 3 years ago doesn't really have anything to do with who started the cost of living and housing crisis. But it is true that Trump's policies, both in his first term and second term, have made the housing and cost of living crisis exponentially worse. And if you would like me to go into more specifics on that, Droid Man, I am happy to. Sophia says, but if we did raise taxes for billionaires, eventually we would still run out of using their money, right? Oh, no, not necessarily. When you tax somebody, you're taking a percentage of what they have and own. Having stuff makes it easier to earn more stuff. And so all the money that they make from their investments and their companies and stuff like that, they're still going to be generating revenue. But I do not believe that we at the moment could tax the billionaires at a high enough rate to make it so that they would not be able to earn taxable income going forward. That also, to me, Sophia, seems very much like right wing billionaire propaganda as opposed to anything that's actually borne out in Econ 101. Gemerald says, can we tax synagogues? I mean, I don't see why not. We generally don't tax religious institutions in America, but if you are involved in politics, I think probably you should, which is a reason why I think we should be taxing megachurches and shit like that. Jorgen says, earning more doesn't help when you have rich people controlling every aspect of monthly expenditure, healthcare, transport, and education. That is another really good point, Sophia, that Jorgen has pointed out. If we have a law that says that you, as the worker, have to earn more, it does not make that much of a substantive difference in that person's life if the billionaire who owns everything just makes everything more expensive to suck up all that money that you just made. Bruh, 728 says we lose more jobs than gain when giving the ultra rich tax breaks. That is accurate. CS says sports franchises and leagues should not be non-profits. Do you concur? Do I think that sports franchises and leagues should not be non-profit? No, I think everything should be non-profits. Yeah. You know, let's make it so that people make a living, not a killing. Meaning they should pay more taxes. Yes, they should pay more taxes, 100%. Yes, I don't think that they should be able to use being a nonprofit as a tax shelter to extract financial gains. Yes, 100%. I am in agreement with you there. Tomo says, do you think the upper class already pay enough tax? No, 100% not. So long as there are people who can't afford food, so long as there are people who can't afford healthcare, so long as there are people who can't afford college, so long as there are people who can't afford housing, then we're not taxing the billionaires enough. Droid Man says, dude, you keep saying pay more taxes, but don't know what the rest of that sentence is going to be. Ryan says, do you think Democrats should be labeled as a terrorist organization after all the assassinations? No, Democrats don't do assassinations. Ryan, that is not a principle of the Democratic Party. Ryan, the talking heads on the left and the elected officials on the left have done nothing but condemn violence in the strongest possible language. But people on the right, and I'm talking specifically about elected officials and talking heads, they have been encouraging the violence and the political violence specifically, Ryan. What do you think about that? Unnamed person says, tax the poor, do you agree? No, I do not. Droid Man still waiting for the rest of that sentence. Sophia says, I do agree with higher taxes for billionaires, but if we won't run out of their money, why not stop there? So I do believe, Sophia, that there is going to be a point where there will be balance in the economy, where the rich have plenty, they're still allowed to be rich, but people have what they need to live good, prosperous, happy lives. I don't know where that point is yet, but I do believe that we need to start moving in that direction so that, and then we'll find it, you know? But we've been doing the opposite for a really long time, Sophia. I want to make sure that you're hearing me on this. Make sure that you know that for the past 50 years, we have been doing an experiment called trickle down economics or supply side economics or the Laffer curve. It's got a lot of different names, where we basically say maybe if we give rich people all the money, then everybody will be richer. And a bunch of people said, That doesn't sound like a good plan to me. But a bunch of rich people said, that seems like a really good plan to me. And then they used all their money to sort of like spread a bunch of propaganda to make it seem like it was a really good idea, also. So for the past 50 years, we've been doing that. And now we have worse economic inequality than the Gilded Age, which was an age that was named after how bad the income inequality was. It's worse now. It's worse now. The rich have an unfathomable amount of wealth at the same time as people like you and me are being told we constantly have to do with less. People in the middle class are being told you got to do with less. People in the working class are being told you got to do with less. Poor people are being told you got to do with less. I don't think that's a just system. I don't think that's the kind of system that Jesus Christ would be advocating for. You know, same Jesus Christ that was like, feed the hungry, heal the sick, clothe the poor, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The same Jesus that said it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get into heaven. Matthew 25 shit. I just learned about Matthew 25 today from a John Fuel thing. Georgie says, do you believe in the horseshoe political theory? I think that there is some validity to it, but I do not agree with it 100%. I think people use it as part of a false narrative campaign to say that Democrats and Republicans or lefties and righties are basically the same. And that is wildly inaccurate. I think you can find examples where that works, but I do not believe that it works, generally speaking. Droid Man says, are you a Christian? Technically, I was raised Catholic. I was confirmed. I did my first communion and everything, but I do not practice any religion. Tom O says, wasn't talking about billionaires. Do you think someone earning a salary of around $300,000 should? No, not in America right now. $300,000 in America is middle class right now. And it's actually dipping into lower middle class because of things like the cost of living crisis. So no, $300,000 is not cutting it. Ready. Stephanie Nicole says, is there a world where we can all have more? Yes, 100%, Stephanie Nicole. That's kind of like the overall message of Ezra Klein's book, Abundance, but it gets a little muddled. If you actually read the book, it gets a little muddled with an argument about how democratic governments are too bogged down in regulations to actually get anything done. And there's a lot of holes in that argument. Credit where credit's due. Ezra Klein seems like a pretty smart guy, but he says some truly out of pocket things in that book and contradictory things as well, where he says that it is unproductive and inefficient for the government to do everything when we could just hire private contractors. And also, he says that it is unproductive and inefficient to rely on outside contractors when the government could just do it themselves. So, yeah, again, they make some good points. The abundance mentality, I think, is a winning political message, but that book is bananas and it is full of holes. It is printed on Swiss cheese for how many fucking holes are in that book. All right, everybody. This has been, what's up, Misty Lane? You are not in question, Joe. You're good, Misty Lane. So sorry for everybody for all the questions that I was not able to get to today. But this was I really enjoyed chatting with you guys today. David Douglas says, who wrote that book? That's Ezra Klein, and he wrote it with somebody else. I don't remember the other person's name. But yeah, I really thank you, everybody. You guys had great questions and comments today. It was really, the trolling was at a minimum, and the substantive questions from people that don't 100% agree with me were just peak today, guys. And Stephanie Nicole says, are you on every day? I'd love to join. Yeah, my regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And if you like the show and you want to support the show, there are ways that you can do that, both financially and for free. One of the free things that you can do is if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel. That helps me out a ton, and it costs you zero. Likes and shares cost nothing. Telling your friends how great this live stream is costs you nothing. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. But there are mechanisms by which you can do that. They are available to you if you have the desire and the dollars. So you can be You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a super fan on TikTok. That's like a subscription where I think it's like $3 a month or something like that. You can become a subscriber on Twitch. And if there are things that you want that would incentivize you to be either a TikTok super fan or a Twitch subscriber that I'm not currently doing, like let me know. I'm totally open to expanding this show to include more things for the top fans, you know. Let's see here. I also have a Patreon that you can join for as little as $1 a month, and I want to give a little bit of love to my regular financial contributors: Muzz King, Pliff, Average Joe, It's the Rocketeer, the two Seans, D, Robert, Shannon, Carmine, and Patrick. If there were any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I am not one of those creators who is so popular and busy that I don't respond to messages. I want to be a resource that you guys use to be more involved and more informed about politics. So if there's any way that I can do that, I want you to do that. So email me through my website, hit me up via TikTok, DMs are open. You can get in touch with me on my Discord channel. Use me, abuse me, use me until I am all used up. And the Discord is great also because there are recommendations there for books and podcasts and nonprofit organizations that desperately need your help. The thing that this political moment needs more than anything is for good people to do the work. What is the Martin Luther King quote where he's like, the only thing that's necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing? We need you to do the work. And if you think that you're too busy or there's something that doesn't fit into your life, you are wrong. There are a million different ways that you can help and be part of the work. If you live in a red place and you're worried about striking or protesting or going out there with your beliefs in your whole face because you're worried about violence against you, there are things that you can do from your home that nobody ever has to know about. So if you are curious about what you can do, hit me up, check out the Discord. There's great recommendations there. But that's what we need now more than ever. And the work is working. We just need more people doing it for longer periods of time. So get there, guys. Get there. Do the work. Yeah. Let's see here. Any final things that I want to get into? Thank you, Stephanie Nicole. I really appreciate that. User whole bunch of numbers says your opinion on the Cuban embargo. I think it was a smarter choice to try to normalize relations with Cuba the way that it happened during the Obama administration. I think that one of the stupidest things that Trump did was go back to our maximalist policy towards Cuba. That's basically just starving the Cuban people, it's cruel. It is not working. It's not productive. It makes us the enemy as opposed to the what do you call it, as opposed to being mad at the communist regime. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Tom O. Rooslix. Are you even still here? Rooslix asks, how is it possible that the top 1% of the wealthy who own 90% of the wealth only pay 40% of the tax? Are you still here, Rooslix? Would you like me to answer that question? Let me know. Otherwise, I will start wrapping up. Sophia, do you think the private sector can help with the wealth inequality gap instead of raising taxes? They can, Sophia, but I think that it is illuminating, don't you think, that they haven't? Like how much more money does Amazon and Walmart and Elon Musk fucking need before they start doing something about wealth inequality? When we put the well-being of the working class in the hands of the bosses, 99% of the time the workers get fucked and the bosses make out like fucking bandits. Like we have so much data surrounding this. It's the reason why unions exist, is because the billionaire class and the owners, it is never enough for them, and they will stomp on your neck if it makes them a penny richer. If it was cheaper for airplanes to crash and kill everybody on board, if that made airline CEOs a penny richer, every single plane would crash. They do not care about you. They do not care about you. They do not care about your family. They do not care about us. If somebody handed Elon Musk a piece of paper that says, you are going to give everybody in the world the most painful version of cancer, but you will be a penny richer, every single billionaire would sign that thing. You know? All right, Ruzelix. All right, I'm going to answer your question. The reason why is because the billionaire class has captured the government institutions, and they have put people in power, installed people into positions of power to cut their taxes and cut regulations for their businesses. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you again. Do the work. Be good to each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great Thursday, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.